So today's November the 3rd, and I completed my first 5K, and it took about 52 minutes. So, for anyone who doesn't know what a 5K is, that is 3.107 miles, and the distance that I accomplished that on in that given time was at a level, in other words, without an incline, and it was on a treadmill. So, the mileage may vary from reality, just like it could with a step counter, but on the same account, I've also been training on trails at Friedrich Park, Government Canyon State Natural Area, and Guadalupe River State Park. And in all cases, I've got to say that it's been a tremendously rewarding journey to find myself more and more confident and comfortable that I can accomplish certain milestones of that distance, which isn't really all that much, but if you really look into the stats by including even the people who you associate with regularly, we might find that it might be a true statement that the average citizen here in my country is unable to run even one single mile. That's a pretty challenging thing. When I ran my last mile full on, I was able to complete my mile in 11 minutes. And I'm not really going for a special time. I'm just trying to find what my cadence is. And I feel that breeze. Do you see it? I know you can't feel it, but maybe you can virtually feel it wherever you are. And you can also understand the fact that I'm definitely smiling more than I was in the past. And that's because I'm spending time recovering. Health is wealth. It's been a tremendous struggle for me to lose weight in the presence of basically the majority of the people that I'm encountering. We absorb and receive energy in many ways, and in many ways our interactions with one another are either blessing one another or sometimes adding additional strain to the situation. So just to give you an example, recently I called out that here in this household we're able to run over a mile, each of us, and we're able to do that successfully on a repeated basis. And so it's no longer a question, it's just a given. It's starting to become a confidence booster. And I mentioned that because I was very excited, because I've never in my past, to my knowledge, run a complete mile until just now in my 45th year. And so I was sharing that information with some really close people who I consider some of my greatest friends. And for some reason, I didn't receive that much of a response in the ways that I thought I would have received any kind of response from a friend that I was sharing that kind of amazing information with. So those kind of things are things where I try to limit my exposure. If there are people who are not going to try to cheer on the successes for you, you might want to find yourself a way to just break free from that crowd. And for me, the mileage between the people who would encourage one another to succeed is becoming further and further and further. And that's basically just because there are people who want to smile and work through these things together that we're all encountering, and there are people who don't, and they're going to find a lot of ways to excuse themselves out of participating. And that's basically the level of self-control that I think that we're all being exposed to. Because at the beginning of this message, you could tell there was an uplifting feel, and right now there's someone who's listening to this who's taking it possibly the wrong way. And for that, I'm going to say, if there's any kind of anxiety that's being caused when it comes to talking about self-control of our physical being, well, maybe we need to pay attention to that. Maybe we shouldn't be stumbling over the garden equipment that's being left out and about in the yard. Maybe we shouldn't be forgetting some of the things that we're leaving in place that we can trip on, like the Legos on the floor. Maybe we should be picking up after ourselves and probably one another, but we also should be able to relay to one another. All of these things are cumulative, and sometimes if we're not too aware of what we're doing, we might all be tricking ourselves into just an earlier retirement than we might have wanted. For some people, there is a level of anxiety that I believe can be cured by simply being in nature. For me, that normally is the case. If you look at the tomato vines on the railings behind me, you'll notice that they're all dried, they're all crisp. And this is despite nurturing them in the exact same way that I've nurtured these plants in the past. This past summer, the temperatures here in San Antonio were over 100 degrees for almost a month and a half to 2 months straight. And we had almost 3 continuous months of temperatures in that range with very little rainfall. These anomalies that happened in our climate are things that made it more challenging for the animals to accomplish certain things. Because even though I was just growing some basic tomatoes, think about all the fruit throughout the nation that has not fruited. Think about all of the energy that has not been well received or produced. So I'm absolutely thankful for these opportunities to be able to learn self-control and to demonstrate it and to discuss it in ways that hopefully make us become just a little bit more aware of what we're capable of. More than anything, I'm not trying to change anyone's life. I'm just saying that if these people who I've shared this information with were proud of my accomplishments, if I was the parent of someone who was doing this for the first time, I probably would want to know this information. So in half of the story that I'm telling here, I'm so blessed because someone is hearing what I'm saying, someone is understanding these accomplishments, and also that sometimes to talk with people who cannot endure these types of tests, that it may be difficult to near impossible to have a basic conversation with them about climate challenges, such as non-fruiting gardens across the nation. It may be a little bit anxiety-inducing to talk about topics that are absolutely real and relevant, like the ability to focus on making it to the next 10 seconds, the next mile, the next kilometer, just making it through the next day, the next hour for some people. And for some people, it's just making it through another 10 minutes. Spend some time in nature. If you can do nothing else, actually spend some time in nature. Turn off the devices. If you're visiting friends and family this holiday season, if you're still continuing the practices of getting together to share the bounty with friends and family, don't forget to turn off those devices that take away from the message that it is that we're trying to discuss during these holidays that we are spending time with one another. And until next time, thank you so much for visiting this channel. Thank you so much for hearing on this November the 3rd that I made it my first 5K. And I'm absolutely thrilled that I was able to accomplish that, because when the San Antonio Rock and Roll Marathon rolls around on the first weekend of December, I'm thinking that I should be well on track to complete the 10K without any difficulties. So I'll probably know a little bit more about that by this Sunday itself, when my long run is scheduled to be. But at the same time, I've got so much time to prepare for this that I'm going to simply enjoy the journey. I'm not going to try to force anything. And maybe at some point in time, the people who want to see the fruits of their labor and what has occurred with the fruits of their labor, maybe they will have also become aware of what exactly they've got in the family tree. So till next time, thanks so much for enjoying this journey with me. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.